Welcome, everyone. My name is Aida Farhat, and I'll be your host today. Welcome to Cosmic Ruh. Today I have our reoccurring guests, Dr. Amir Jahangiri and Miles Johnston. Both of you welcome. Thank you for joining me on the show today. And Brian Tseng is going to be popping, he'll join us in just a little bit. He's finishing up on another podcast. So there's so much to talk about today. And Miles, prior to us going live, you were mentioning that you wanted to share something about, I don't know what you had in your hand. There was a paper you want to...
we've all heard of the New World Order. Hello. Excuse me, I'm Amir. I thought I was special. She told me that I was a special guest. Now I'm just...
You are? Special guest. You're always special to me.
Yes. Not even a name, just hello. Not that I get hurt about these things.
Okay, Miles. I introduced you both. You didn't hear that, evidently. Welcome, Miles Johnston, our special guest.
Oh, but thank you. I can talk now.
Yes. Okay.
Right. This is from... Oh, not this one. We don't want to talk about this. We're not talking about that. This is called from the Labour Party. This is Britain's Labour Party, and this is a link to a classified or secret announcement with Wes Streeting and Keir Starmer on the 31st of October. But this is a list of headings. Take ministerial control. The new government in Britain is taking a data-led approach. It will take ministerial control of all GP medical notes in a central care record. So all of your doctor's national health, your personal doctor, whether your national health or not, it's all going to be centralized, and they're going to run it and they're going to control it. Now this is it. Dissolve the distinction between the NHS and government. Which means if you disagree or you have a little bit of a problem with the NHS, the National Health Service, which is caring and loving to try and, help you and cure you of broken legs and whatever, it's now going to be the government. So this is just a heading. There's a whole pages and pages after this. So instead of your doctor recommending that you take these 3 pills twice a week, okay? It's not the NHS doing that. It's the government telling you you will take these 3 pills 3 times a day. And if you don't do that, you are directly in contravention of the government. Genetically sequence every baby in England. We've heard of the health. A lot of people probably haven't heard, but they've heard of the heel prick test. And I've actually speaking to a very young lady today who's a BASIS contributor. And I just worked out, I told her, look, you've got 3 9s in your phone. You're already on the list. If you've got 3 zeros, 3 3s, 3 6s, and 3 9s, I've got 3 6s. You watch. I have 3 6s. You don't. The government has allocated that. So the heel prick test is at birth, and they will take the DNA of the mother. In that test, they get the DNA of the mother and the child, and that is on your record for life. And after that, they are looking for you or looking at you, or that's how all these children get taken from our schools and sequenced into various programs and then returned back to the school if you're lucky. The DWP, that's the Department of Work and Pensions, give prescription-only desire-altering drugs to those drugs. In other words, happy slappy drugs to those on UC to prevent them holding back our economy. In other words, bump people off. Link club card data to departmental data for policy making. Require data from Fitbit smart watches. Fitbits and smart watches be shared with the NHS via the NHS app. So people with a smart watch are being directly monitored by the government, and your performance and location are going to the British government. Have any data shared via NHS app. And remember, NHS equals government. The NHS app to go to Palantir, I don't know who they are, where it can be fed to AIs, and anything in Palantir, that's Palantir, can be made available to others for economic growth. Which means if you're being a bad citizen, you're not providing economic growth, and well, we're after you. Those who refuse permissions to the app will find that their care is impacted, and the app may refuse you to work until may refuse to work until all access and sharing permissions were granted us (brackets as English COVID-19 app refused). So this is the app. Right, this is the Labour government, right? Give more data to ONS, whose transparency remains. We have answered 2 or 3 parliamentary questions. I'm not too sure what, sorry, I think ONS is the Office of National Statistics. Remove independent, transparent oversight of data use in government from NHS. Allow ONS to give permission to departments to do whatever they wish for policy purposes, whatever they want to do. Support the biobank. Now, I actually joined the biobank a long time ago.
The biobank, what is that, Miles?
The biobank is a thing where people were volunteered to help the health service collect data. And for instance, I was measured up, and because I'm a big burly rugby player, I was always a good stone, I don't know how many pounds that is, over what the weight I should be. And so I was so important that, well, I'm a rugby player. I've got high density bones, right? Forget the 16 pints of Guinness every night. That's nothing to do with it. Or a pizza after 1 o'clock. And the doctor said quietly, bone density normal, which basically meant I was a fat bastard. Okay, I'm trying to put a little bit of joviality into this. Remove from GPs any input on where and how GP data gets reused, principally to give to the biobank and friends of the biobank. Dissolve GP practices to undermine profession with direct responsibility to patients. So they're undermining the GP, your doctor, and the responsibility to the patient. In other words, they don't have responsibility to the patients anymore. Revoke promises made to GPs and parents during the pandemic about how pandemic-only data would be used. In other words, all the promises they already lied about during the pandemic, they're revoking, risking public confidence next time, as no promises can be believed. Well, that's true. Replace NHS staff with chatbots and diagnosing AIs, and replace your GP surgery, that's your personal surgery, with 111. Your GP, that's 111 on the phone. So you want to get rid of any direct personal contact with a doctor. And the GP has already lost control of their phone lines, has no influence over the features of the app or NHS UK. So doctors, personal doctors, human beings, have been removed in this country by Labour. Streeting's first act was a political decision to override any political decisions, to override any clinical judgment. Now, this is already coming in Northern Ireland. And finally, the Tory data bill. So, I mean, this I could go on. Population health management will be the focus of neighbourhood health service strategy. This is absolute gargantuan New World Order. Your local doctor has no status, judgment, or connection. It has to be done by AI. Everything goes into an AI system. Total control. That's what Britain's national health has been doing since Labour came in. Total utter control. Now, fortunately, the pregnant women will be required to share data with the app if they want NHS care. So, I mean, this is, if you want our care, you got to use the app. And the DNA, your DNA is being analyzed. And this is crucial to what the BASIS project was way back in 1984. They were knocking off aliens in bases in this country, half-breed aliens. And the DNA track with the, I mean, this has been going on anyway. Children have been taken out of school. They're taken on a school trip. And I have direct testimony from certain people who witnessed this. You're taken on a school trip to see some wonderful place. In the meantime, you go into a military base. Not all of you come back out of it. But in order to have a screen memory of you actually being at the place as advertised, so people can take pictures. Oh, this is me here and this is me there. So the parents get some kind of a vague idea. And again, the parents have got no input. The doctors have got no input. But the doctors are human. This is a total alien takeover of the entire British health system in your face. Thank you, Mr. Starmer and the Labour Party.
Well, it's interesting that you're talking about the school bus and the school trips and the whole bit, because I recently had Mary Beaver on with Brian. We did a show and she was mentioning about how when entering, for instance, when I was a child, I was taken to DC to museums for a field trip. And I remember going to the Space Museum and the, what was it called? The, okay, I can't think of it. It's,
you can't get past your screen memory, Aida.
Yeah, well, okay, so there was some field trips, and also Max Spears on one of your shows had mentioned about summer camp and being taken to summer camp and how this was used as all these things. And my sister actually mentioned, we were talking, and there was a man that used to come to take us to get Christmas toys, because my mother was the mother of 12 children, to help her with Christmas gifts for the kids. But we were taken to this big room where all these toys were. And she said she remembers being taken into a room to watch movies. I don't remember that, but she does. And there's just so much that happens as a child that I have, quite a bit of memory, but maybe some of it screams yes. But I'd like to hear, Dr. Amir, what are your thoughts on everything that Miles has just shared with us? Because we know that all of these. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I think we're entering into a brave new world. And of course, it is critically important to be vigilant of the potential harm that can arise from the manipulation of data in large scale. Some of it might be justified. So, for example, the NHS in the United Kingdom is under enormous pressure. The system is at the brink of failure, quite honestly. It's reflected in the pay and the working hours of hundreds, thousands of wonderful people. Now, they're not all negative or evil. They're really under pressure, from junior doctors to nurses. So one might think perhaps there would be some reasoning behind trying to take advantage of diagnosis in an early stage. If it actually works, it could be a good thing. Now, with clean and clear data going in, a machine can learn to recognize patterns that even the most experienced senior doctor will miss. It just doesn't make sense to a human being. And yet the machine that's trained with hundreds of thousands of data points will manage to recognize. So this would potentially lead to earlier diagnostic of deadly diseases like cancer. One scan of the contents of your blood, they may be able to diagnose early. There are potential positive outcomes. Yet again, alongside with what my esteemed friend Miles said, there are always potentials for abuse. This is a constant. And so discussions like this are very valuable, raising the awareness of the public so that they are on board with what can potentially go wrong. Now, going back with this process of data sharing, this is a tricky one. There's so many reasons why this can go wrong. But I'm aware of events where, especially during the earlier phases of COVID, where things were absolutely chaotic. Medical records of, so this is a benevolent example, medical records of the most vulnerable members of the public were not accessible for support. And so there were many, many layers of red tape, little silos of information, and the process of storing the data hadn't been updated since the end of World War II. Believe me, this is the truth. And so things did not run. This led to quite a lot of problems. Specifically, again, going back to the case of cancer, people that would have received life-saving treatments, they were neglected. So it's a double-edged sword, without a doubt. And so we absolutely must be vigilant to try and keep what benefits us and absolutely avoid the downsides. The privacy and dignity of every human being. Their right to be forgotten. If the data is not used for a very specific and legal purpose, it should not be kept, and so on. Yes, some of these things are mind-boggling. Some of them might be excessive. And so hopefully through continued discussion and raising awareness, we'll manage to avoid the pitfalls that come from this kind of process of automation, the use of AI. But it's going to get probably worse before it gets better. These devices are trained. The models that we use are absolutely imperfect. They don't reflect the complex reality of the world around us. And so sometimes they will lead to catastrophic results. So yes, I believe that we're entering a tricky age, and there is much potential harm that we will try to avoid.
There's so much going through my mind about what Miles said, and then listening to you, and you always give this, even your voice is so soothing, Dr. Amir. I mean, just to hear you sharing what you're sharing, because when I was listening to him, I could just feel the intensity in my body get restricted and like resistant, because it's so much and so overwhelming to think about how much is going on that we don't really give a whole lot of thought to, unless it's somebody like Miles Johnston or yourself or other people doing this kind of research to bring it out into the open and say, hey guys, we need to be aware of, what's going on and the potential harm, and possibly consider. So it just seems like all this has been going on for so long. I don't know that there's really a way that we can change what's happening other than pull ourselves back and be mindful of what we're in agreement to when dealing with these different
well, I think Aida, there's a very important phrase in here.
Doctors and so forth. I mean, I'm sorry. What was that, Miles?
There's a very important point about this, is that they now know that the trust with doctors is lost by the general public because of the COVID thing. So they've actually built in, that's why they are actually bypassing the doctors, because the doctors are realizing, and they're then going to bypass that and push a machine, and then your Apple or your Google wristwatch will be your monitor. And then the next thing that they want with Meta, you know, per man who runs Facebook, the per guy, he's such a decent guy. We don't need phones anymore. We're going to have these glasses. And that's what I was saying when people were getting blinded with ultraviolet car headlights. They know that they blind people. They know that they cause damage, including OLED TV screens and mobile phone screens. And the optimal damage that the OLED screen does is approximately arm's length. So they've maximized the damage of high blue spectral lines, just a couple of lines of specific spectral energy lines. And that's designed to damage your retina by using a mobile phone. That's in the research paper, which I've got somewhere. But they've maximized it for the very purposes of making sure that the phones will damage your retina. And then guess what they've been doing up in the days since Skylab, way back in the mid-70s, growing retinas in space. Because they've got a new one, just right for you. When you start having detached retina and people start having these eye things, and there's a couple of military people here, retired, they didn't realize how bad their eyes were getting until he drove into a stationary bus because he didn't detect it wasn't moving. So he had a cataract operation. They did both eyes, and both eyes are screwed down. So this is all in the mix of their plans. So
I watched a podcast with Danny Jones with a gentleman that was talking about everything that you're referring to right now. And he had recommended, I don't know if this is really helpful. It kind of gets on my nerves, but there's apps where you can, it will adjust your phone light for the red light to balance.
That isn't removing the high spectral blue that comes off an OLED screen. It makes it look redder. It reduces the blue picture or the blue in a picture, but the OLED screen is still transmitting those two tiny thin little spectral energies of blue light, high blue, which are more damaging than UV.
Well, I definitely know that the car light, I have a difficult time driving at night now because
it's high blue.
I have to be way more alert.
And if you look at those lights during the day, they have a bright pink look on it. That's ultraviolet.
Yeah.
Now it's got so bad in the UK that they're actually stopping minis produced by BMW. Had the worst headlights. VW, Audi, but strangely Mercedes didn't have these lights. It was this cartel, VW, BMW Mini, who bought the design, which were bought from British Leyland. So the BMW make the Minis, which are bigger than the bloody Land Rovers now. Anyway, but they all had the same kind of lights. And Porsches have got 4 burning headlights, which they're now selling in all the gas stations here. These orange lights specified by the glasses by the AA. And when you look through those, you realize you've got a bright purple headlight coming at you. No need for that. And you can't actually see better because it's an LED light and it doesn't travel that far and give you a coherent edge to notice that something is in front of you. It's nothing to do with having good headlights and vision.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a interesting event. This is from back in the 70s. A very famous car manufacturer noticed that their vehicles had a very difficult to fix technical issue. So they run the numbers. The cost of recalling every single vehicle versus the potential cost of lawsuits by those that would be inevitably injured. They chose to go down the legal route, and so This is not changed. If anything, the competition and the margins have gotten sharper. So we see this in cases like the Dieselgate, where many of the big manufacturers globally, they cheat the environmental tests on the emissions. The car knows it's under test, and so it changes the way it works. Once it's off test, it starts polluting by 50 times what is legal and acceptable.
Wow.
So Volkswagen, that was one of the biggest corporations involved in this. So again, it seems that we're really nicely converging to a theme here, that although there might be good intentions and good reasoning behind many of these things, the potential for abuse always exists.
I
also
think,
true with electronics.
Dr. Amir, I think that was a setup to fail, so we would then be so shocked and horrified by diesel cars, we'd buy electric.
Which are ultimately much worse. So
Yes.
people think because they don't see the emissions in their local area that it is clean. That is not true. Much of the electricity globally, universally, this is still generated by coal or burning gas. It would be surprising to our audience to hear that probably the cleanest type of fuel is still nuclear, where you can put them in lead caskets and bury them a mile or two under the ground, and in 300 years, 500 years, they're inert. So this whole is really a business, you see, a global business of profiting with very little regard towards the actual well-being of people, unless people are aware. Now, the setup, I agree, it very much fits the global flow of industry. But again, the power of the public. Many people were furious when they found about the cheating of big car manufacturers regarding emissions. Now, this clean and correct and to the point information about potential abuses, it can move people towards not buying the product. That'll kill it pretty instantly. And that is the way, I would say, an updated version of Gandhi's protest. Non-violent, non-participation. We just don't give our hard-earned cash to these manufacturers. And so this clean information, true information, that, hey, boys and girls, this corporation is doing this and this and this. This is true. This is the fact. This is the evidence. Now you choose if you want to buy their product. So we, the people, absolutely have the power. And so again, back to the start, the information that wonderful people like Miles are providing. This is an invaluable service to the highest good of all of us.
Well,
So,
Dr. Amir, everybody was saying, oh, Germany, they've fallen so far behind in electric car manufacture. And now, since Aida, you were talking about Trump, keep drilling or drill deep or whatever. The CO2 argument has been outed as a fraud. So those German car manufacturers could actually be leading in sales because the CO2 thing is a con. And America's going to start drilling deep and China's having coal-fired power stations all over the bloody place. But they know they work.
well, I want to say something real quick. First off, I watched the inauguration last night, and I was I wasn't surprised at what I was hearing President Trump sharing about, one of his first statements or the beginning of his his speech was about the golden age, and then about digging and fracking and all of those. So much was said, but he's working closely with Elon Musk now, who wants to push all of what you've just mentioned, Miles. As far as
Dr. Amir, I am going to say something. I'm going to do something. I'm going to hold my hand here. And you may have seen it. You may have seen it, Dr. Amir. Maybe you're already ahead of me here. I am Elon Musk, and we are going to lead the world. Did that
Oops.
twice.
Oops.
And then he realized that's sort of
a big no-no.
Well, he surely was in the.
I'm
He
just
was
grabbing
in
for a light bulb here, Dr. Amir.
He was in the
But he
background.
realized it. Aida, do you not know what we're talking about?
No, but you can call me Ida instead of Ada.
Ida.
I love you, Miles. Yes.
Ida.
Thank you.
Are we
Ida.
talking about a
Okay,
Trump
I like
China here or a Trump Ida? I'm
Okay,
gonna get it
well,
right.
Yeah.
Dr. Amir, help me here. God's sake.
Okay, so with
I'm-
regards to
I'm really just wondering. Go ahead, Dr. Amir, please, because a lot's going through my mind, but you guys are definitely.
the new golden age, what a wonderful ideal. And yet it seems that it is becoming more and more elusive. The way of entering a golden age is really harmony. And it seems that more barriers are being raised. Perhaps we will benefit from the freezing of hot wars, where people are being harmed and killed through the use of bombs, weapons, bullets. At least that would be an improvement if we take it to the economic side of things, as long as nobody suffers extreme poverty. But it seems that's the way we're going. There's a big division about to arise between the old system of empire and nations that are rising. And most likely, the nations that are rising are going to develop and accelerate in orders of magnitude faster than the Western world. So this division will make sense as long as there is a group of haves and a group of have-nots. I would think this would be the what will transpire in the next century. Two poles and absolute separation. And so what the wonderful new president is proposing is leading towards that. In this process of tariffs, it's a 0 or a 1. You're with us or you're against us. This is highly divisive, and it's going to create two poles.
What about North Carolina? All those people checked out of hotels because you got Trump in there now.
Let me just share real quick. First off, just real quick. Okay. He's the 47th president, and 4 and 7 makes 11, which is a master number. 2025 equals to 9. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 is, 5 is 9. I'm just curious, is there any relevance there? There's got to be in numerology. There's got to be some message in that. It says regarding 2025, numerologists calculate universal year by digits. The number 9 signifies completion, reflection, and the end of a cycle, encouraging individuals and societies to release old and prepare for new beginnings. Now, I don't know what kind of new beginning he's trying to propose, other than he's speaking about the golden age. Also, President Trump proclaimed the onset of the golden age to America, emphasizing a vision of national renewal and prosperity. He outlined plans to prioritize American interests, including declaring a national emergency at the southern border and boosting domestic oil production. President Trump also criticized previous administrations for policies he believes led national decline, vowing to reverse these trends. He called for unity and collective effort to achieve these goals, asserting that America's greatest years lie ahead. The term golden age signifies a period of renewed strength and prosperity, aiming to inspire optimism among Americans. However, the feasibility of these ambitious plans remains a subject of debate among political analysts. So, and I could go on, but that's just some of what I kind of put in there to get. I don't know. Okay. this is just some things that are coming to my mind. I have now. I saw you post it, Miles, with Mary Beaver after Laura Eisenhower had posted. You posted Mary Beaver. A post. I don't know if you're familiar with Mary Beaver, but she is claiming that we all need to get our remove ourselves from the fiction and do all our paperwork to become sovereign and emancipate ourselves in order.
There is a great deal on that because the whole law system, corporate, your corporate entity and dead and all that, but that's something that they've been pushing at least since the 90s, that you are a living being and then the whole court system will collapse. They've got it all worked out. They have the way that the law is worked out in Britain anyway, is that they'll have a set of paragraphs for one set of circumstances, and in the same law, they will have an exactly opposing set of regulations and answers for exactly the opposing thing in the first part. So they just choose to use bits of the law against you as and when it's appropriate for them. There's a very good gentleman who outlined all this. He's from the UK column. His name escapes me, but I did a video. I was asked to record Project Veritas. I'll have to get it. It's a project. He explained this in great detail and how law is constructed. And the purposes of it is, no matter which end of it you pick up and try to counter, they will be able to reorientate it and throw you out and eat you up and spit you out. So that
there's
kind
so
of
much
thing
paperwork
doesn't work.
So George Cavallis is. Please, Dr. Amir.
Some of the complexities of the British legal system, absolutely, it's its own thing. So if you study British law, you can only practice in the UK. It's completely different to, well, of course, the Commonwealth, Australia, probably Canada, they would also follow the same format. It is very complex. Precedent-based, so as my esteemed friend Miles very correctly stated, it's based on precedents. And so it gives the legal system a great deal of flexibility. But again, on the other side of the pond, in the, let's say, the US based legal structure, way of thinking, if you are an individual, you are pretty much also at a very vulnerable position. So a major corporation or somebody with lots of money can basically keep you in court until you are decimated. This is also absolutely a fact. So here again, going back to, in my humble opinion, the way of non-aggressive, non-participation. We cannot pick up arms. That is absolutely lunatic. What we can do is focus on the self, minimizing harm to ourself and our loved ones through enlightenment, through knowledge, correct information. And this is a very difficult thing. It's easier said than done. So much corruption exists in the world. Nobody is exempt from this. There's absolutely greed and deception. We all face this on a daily basis. What will greatly reduce, sometimes even completely negate the harmful effects of what is going on globally, we can do from within. So keeping our bodies clean to the best of our ability, maintaining a peaceful energy, because again, too much stress, it's going to absolutely kill. Trying to basically reduce our consumer behavior. It is not about what you have. It's not about possession. Possession really is an illusion. We come in with nothing on. We come in naked and we leave naked. The true meaning of abundance is having free time to do what you love. Right now, I'm in the presence of you two wonderful people, and I absolutely love it. It is enriching me and enhancing me. You cannot put a monetary value on this. Now, this distortion has everybody running on a hamster wheel. This is a cause of great suffering. So if you have a phone that works and then the next generation comes out, don't be a zombie. Use it until the damn thing dies. These things last for a decade, right? So you save yourself thousands of dollars or pounds in the meantime. So it really needs a change from the individual level. This is going to be a gradual process. In my understanding, in my humble opinion, 3 centuries until the poison that is the socioeconomic, political, military, pharmaceutical, all of that system of control, that is not going to die easy. We're in the dark ages are pretty much over as we go along the 36,000 year count, but the sun comes up gradually. We're in the worst time in human history, where there has never been so much war, such a mind-boggling number of human slaves, such vast numbers of people in abstract, in extreme poverty without drinking water or food. These are realities. So it is not a pretty world we are in right now. That is the fact. So much abuse happens. So the best we can do is not be a cause to this problem, not be contributing to it, and reduce harm to the best of our ability. Some of this stuff we really cannot change. We're along the ride. Where the ship goes, we're one of the passengers. So, yeah, just what's the expression? Stay calm and think of England. That's what they were telling the British public when the bombs were dropping. The Luftwaffe was decimating London. Stay calm and think of England. You know what? That's probably the best thing that came out of World War II.
Dr. Amir, are you familiar with George Kavalisis?
I love the guy.
He's from.
Oh, I absolutely love George.
You love him?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what you said?
Oh, yeah.
George, I do too. Yeah. I do too. So I'm not surprised to hear that coming from you, by the way. I absolutely resonate with his message. And Miles, you know who George Kavalisis is. So
it's a very familiar name, but I can't currently recall.
Well, I will send you.
I've heard of him a lot, but I haven't. I'm such a busy man.
Yeah. No, he's amazing, and I've been listening to his work for a very long time. And the minute, when I
By the way, I just want to. Sorry, are we talking? That person I was talking about was Project Libertas, by the very fine ladies up in Stroud. He did a recording for them. So in their website, Project Libertas, that's where you would find that hour and a half long presentation where he talks about the British law and how it all works. I don't know the guy's name, but it's the recent one they did just before Christmas. For those who want to.
If you have a link, Miles, send it to me in Messenger, and I can put it in the comments or put it in the comments.
I will get on with that while we multitask.
Okay,
absolutely.
So I just want to say to you, yes,
please add a link for George too, because the gentleman is. So if I wanted to introduce.
Well, do you know how to do that, Dr. Amir? Because I could send you the 2 videos. I don't know. I'm so sorry, but I do not know how to do those things.
Well, George Kavalisis, if I'm saying his name correctly, if not, I do apologize. Well, he is a true seeker of spiritual enlightenment. I like to think of him as a reflection of our times, the enormous distortion that we all suffer. And so he brought about many enlightening and very beneficial notions, spiritual ideas. He went through many ups and downs through his journey, and he always had the integrity to admit when he was wrong. That is a very rare and precious thing. I greatly admire the man for that. It takes a big man to say, okay, I'm really sorry, I got it wrong. And that endears him even greater. So wishing the gentleman the absolute best. I really love him. He's very likable. And so, again, nobody is perfect. and so I haven't done a boo-boo yet, but it's probably going to occur. So in advance, I apologize for getting it wrong, right? So let's take the ego out of this.
Yeah.
Hello?
I would love to see you and George Cavallis have a
Oh
show,
God,
do a show together. And I do have his contact information. I can contact him and see if, I mean, I had a reading with him many years ago, and well, I don't know him personally, so I'm not trying to act like I'm best friends with the guy, but I do have contact information which I can reach out to him. And I have been following, as you, I have a great adoration, and I hold him in high esteem. I think he's great. He has recently done 2 shows with Michael Sala, worth watching to both of you, and I can send them to you if you'd like. But he is suggesting that there's going to be a lot taking place in the next, couple of years, in particular in the next year and moving forward. That the galactics, they're at a point where, they're going to start showing themselves in a much bigger way. And also talking about President Trump becoming the president of all of the world, basically, not just America. Like, he's being potentially, maybe you'll have a listen and see what he has to say. Maybe I'm hearing it wrong, and I'm open to that, but
may the beloved divine have mercy on us.
Yeah. So
I sent you a link there, Ida. Hopefully it works. It's a Bing link. It's not really what I was trying to send you, but my old website seems to have it better than their website. Anyway, you're referring to Trump taking over the world.
So Trump, Dr. Amir, I'm sorry. George Cavallis was talking about many things, of course, but he was on Michael Sala's show talking about these off-world beings that he's in contact with, these galactic beings, and that there is going to be some serious changes taking place in the next year or so. Well,
have you
leading up to that, it's already happening, but where it's going to be more like in our face, obvious to
there's a map which has been put forward, and I saw Stuart Sverdlow talking about this on another person's show, and he's using the same map. It's basically a map of the New World Order circa about 1942, where you have the North American region, the South American region. There's about 6 or 7 different regions, but as of now, what Trump is simply referring to is what he's been told to talk about, is that you will have the American region, North and South America, as one unit, the whole way to Greenland and Iceland, right? Forget about this whole thing about getting Denmark is also something very, very old. I've been arguing about this since World War II, about America taking Greenland. But the bottom line is that the whole American continent, both North and South, will be one unit. Everything south of the Mediterranean states in Africa will be one zone, right down to South Africa. You then have the Russian zone, where Moscow will control everything to Calais, right? And this is where the mention of, if Russia wanted to, they could just drive down the highways and be in Calais in about 24 hours, and Europe is so badly defended, they couldn't say anything about it. So then you will have the Chinese zone, and then India will have its little sort of subduction zone of their zone, and then the Mediterranean states in Africa, the whole way from the Atlantic, the whole way to, I think, the River Jordan, will be a Muslim or spiritual zone.
Persia.
And that's what the new world is basically being planned as. And then, of course, we've got Antarctica, which is,
it'll be a spiritual zone. So what about the rest of the world?
No, that is the rest of the world. That's the rest of the world. That's the way they're organizing it. China will have everything to the dateline, including Australia and New Zealand. And then everything from the dateline, everything east of the dateline will be in the American zone, north and south. So North and South America is one complete zone. And the only thing that's left out is some little place called the British Isles, and nobody gives a blind fuck about that. It illustrates the level of, if they want to, they can join the American zone. And this is where the whole thing about Trudeau and all this is playing out, because when the Quebec, there was going to be a referendum in the 1970s, or I think there was, where the Quebecois, the French-speaking part of Canada, would reconnect with France. Excuse me, I just got to have to. And then America was going to simply absorb the rich mid part of Canada. That was all essentially arranged way back in the 1930s. It was the Red Book report, which was the plan to defend America from the Royal Navy on east and west coasts, and America would simply just assume control of Canada. And this goes back to the discussions about Alaska, and so this is going back to the Austro-Hungarian Empire days. This is before before World War One, and so this whole mix of how they just want the world into these zones is all in 1984. The only difference is that those actual zones have moved around a bit and expanded, and some gone away altogether. That's what they're talking about right now.
Well, that's so interesting. Now, I wasn't aware of the more ancient, let's say, the current century planning of this, but remote viewing a little ahead, the future 50 years of the world, that is spot on. That is spot on. So the divisions that let's call them little confederations, the Americas, China, Eurasia, which would be Europe and Russia. Now again, unfortunately through NATO, Europe has lost sovereignty. They do no longer have the ability to protect their national borders. Their language, their customs is all eroded. They're gone. And
the same goes for OTAN, the Pacific region. And China has already shown it's well influenced right down to Australia and New Zealand. And the islands I don't know what.
I'm curious, Dr. Amir, what is your thoughts on what's going on in Palestine and Israel right now? I appreciate everything y'all are sharing, but, of course, I'm just, now they're ceasefire. Now they're bringing the American hostages back over to America.
It's the same thing that's been going on for 1,000 years. It never stopped. It's called the Crusades. Okay. That's it.
So what does that mean exactly? So I have some clarity.
Well, we have to bring Robin Hood in here somehow.
Well,
I'm sorry.
We have to bring Robin Hood in here somehow. All those green tights,
I love Miles. He is a trip. Brian, welcome. You're muted. Yeah. Hey, Brian.
Hi, thank you. I just got out of a 2-hour consult with Jessica, Ariel Morocco, and Peter the Insider, where they were reviewing the files that are on me in the database that Peter the Insider has access to, and they're pretty extensive.
Okay.
So I'm going to be doing more sessions with them. Peter himself is blown away. He says so.
I've spoken to Peter a couple times. I'd love, we could talk about that.
But yeah, I want to chime in on the whole. You're asking on Israel Palestine.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say my understanding is that the Khazarian mafia is being rounded up in places like Switzerland, like where they have their Octagon headquarters in Lake Geneva, and Ukraine is part of that, and also Israel. And part of it is that the Netanyahu leadership that helped to, with the Mossad, inspire Hamas And he said so. There's quotes all over this online about Hamas is a Likud creation of the Israeli deep state. How what they wanted to do is they wanted to force a full-on invasion and genocide of Palestine so that Israel could kind of consolidate itself in the region, because Netanyahu and the Likud party, their own power base is severely eroded. The Israeli people are not happy about the bioweapons injections. They're not happy about all the shenanigans with like their version of 9/11 being attacked when their own military was involved, and people are realizing that Hamas is a sock puppet of Mossad, and it's not just this militant faction of the Palestinian people. And they're not able to genocide fast enough, and it's horrible because for us on the other side, they're genociding way too fast. On their side, they're trying to destroy as much as they can and sweep it under the rubble as fast as they can. And it's not going to work, but that's where we're at right now. And with the incoming administration, I expect that to change a bit. And for all the people who say that Trump is just a tool of Israel, an AIPAC, just like all the other U.S. politicians, I'll say, yeah, he's got connections like them all. But at the same time, it's not for no reason that when he went to Saudi Arabia, the king of Saudi Arabia literally presented him with like the family royal sword. It's essentially the keys to the kingdom. And if he was 100% in the pocket of Israel, I don't think the king of Saudi Arabia would be, whining and dining and feting Trump so much. And there's more to say on that, but that's some of it.
But Brian, isn't it right that the whole Israel thing is a complete con? The Jews there are there to be sacrificed, and they don't realize it. I think they're realizing it now.
Well, first of all, most of them were Ashkenazi as opposed to the Sephardim. So there's all of that. We can go all the way back to the Balfour Declaration and the Freemasonic, derp state cabal forces there. And really the state of Israel, I mean, I'd say far from being a haven for quote unquote Jewish people. And these are Ashkenazi in the majority, not Sephardim. Then you got all the stuff coming out about the Lubavitch cult.
I know that they want to get rid of the Palestinians are the true Hebrews. I'm sorry,
right? They're more the true. Yeah, well, they're more the true bloodline that goes back to like the more Judeo-Christic roots that are of that area, and then they're being replaced. They are
absolutely the true. I mean, I am.
Dr. Amir, doesn't this involve crucially the Iranians?
Well, so of course, yes. It's where East and West meet. That part of the world has been a hot zone for thousands of years, going back to the times of the Greeks, even going back to the times of the Babylonians, far more ancient than the Persians. And so it's where the two armies traditionally meet. It's this whole thing really was initiated after the fall of the Ottoman Empire, keeping the Islamic world under check.
Are we talking about the 300 Spartans era?
All of this
too early?
Yes.
They might have been super soldiers, Miles. I've heard some of the Spartans were genetically altered super soldiers. That's why they could hold off so many of the Persians.
Sir. Yes, sir. This is true. And so there is something energetic about that part of the world. Every single major faith, religious system, and civilization has its roots in that part. No other zone in the world is so rich in the energy of birthing of civilizations. There's something about it.
Is this about the Lebanon Rift Valley and the Shining Ones and the White House with Yahweh, and not the Anunnaki, but the Anunnaki, different pronunciation. There's a gentleman called Edmund Marriage did a lot of research on that, and a couple called the Phillips published this book called The Shining Ones about all that Lebanon Rift Valley, and you could only anyway. This is going back to.
It's going back a long time. It's not a modern thing. Anybody who is anybody in history, in memorial, they seem to have had some desire to have access to this part of the world, and this hasn't changed.
Yeah, Dr. Amir, it's true, or isn't it true? This planet holds over 200 womb chakras, as opposed to the other planetary systems hold maybe 2, 3, or 4. So because of these, what we're calling womb chakras all over the planet, in particular in the Middle East, these are like Stargate womb chakra, huge, like energetic points where they want to keep wars going on top, and sacrifice and blood and killings to keep the energy contained.
Suppressed. That is correct. That is spot on. Yes,
but
this
don't
is
awaken. Don't become aware. Don't understand. I'm sorry.
I think Aida, you just cracked the code. Now, let's go back 250,000 years, where the conditions of humanity really, really got messed up with the introduction of foreigner species. I call them just the frickin' pirates. And so you're spot on. The health of our planet.
You're talking about, Dr. Amir, with that's when they nerfed us to start mining gold for them on Mars and then Earth.
And so in order for this to happen, the Earth needed to be injured. And so once the capacity of Earth goes down, the natural nervous system of the planet, which are the ley lines and the nodes, in order to keep them suppressed, one of the things that is used is human sacrifice. The beings that are in the guardian crystals, they're very sensitive to trauma. So you sacrifice a few 100,000 people over them, they go to sleep, they can't take it. So this continual bloodshed and violence in that part of the world would go along very nicely with this whole, let's say, multi-galactic universal system of control. Now, so Aida, you're spot on. I'm really agreeing. I love what you just raised. Once the Earth is healed.
This is crucial to Bob Osborne's research at Zener, where two ley lines intersect with Britain. And the ley lines of Britain have been so heavily contaminated and affected. And that's why the Nazis, not the Nazis, it was way before the Nazis, were at Zener. D.H. Lawrence, the Fabian Society, which controls the BBC, the London School of Economics, a wolf in sheep's clothing, all comes from Britain. That's where, that's the, king, the English king, the attacks through Switzerland to, the Crusades. There's all a connection there.
So it's wonderful, all of us pooling in our knowledge of this, and it seems we're all coming to the same conclusion. Yes,
it was the Germans who came and it did rituals. Aleister Crowley, all the normal people, right? D.H. Lawrence, the Fabian group, they were more successful at extracting ley line energy than the British were, and I think that brings in Churchill and all that lot. This is all mixed up with those energies and Glastonbury and so forth, and the church in Paris that went on fire, Notre Dame. And why was it the church in Israel which went on fire at the same time? The Wailing Wall, and then we've got Trump going there, only paying respects, and that's about it.
And Miles, was the reason why Notre Dame was on fire was because there was going to be sacrifices there, and the white hat groups wanted to upset that apple cart? Is that what happened?
That's always been that the church there has been a control on the temple of Isis, and it was to withhold the divine feminine, and by destroying the divine feminine was then released.
It's basically
okay. And so I understand that, because I wanted to ask you, Dr. Amir, this is just came to my mind, and then Miles just said what he just said, so I'm going to ask you: would you agree or help bring some clarity about I've always felt that it was the divine feminine who has been sacrificed. It's never been the masculine, let's say Jesus. I'm just curious to know what your thoughts are on that. And I'm open to be, I'm open to your perspective and understanding.
I will give you my humble opinion. It's everything from the light to the dark that is suffering in the terms of life. Let's not just restrict ourselves to the human species. Every life form on the planet is under pressure. The forests, the oceans, right? We're just a small proportion. If we disappear tomorrow, the rest of the life on planet Earth will go on quite happily. Let's not neglect the more ancient species, the elementals. These are also under pressure. So this did not occur in one go. It's a slow grind. And so there have been around 30,000 resets of humanity, each period lasting 10 to 12,000 years. The totality of this is 350 million years. And so slowly, the Earth gets degraded. Her defenses go down, and then the conditions become suitable for infection in the form of invasion. And so all aspects of the healthy, liberated, and enlightened human have been under siege. From the time that the sperm and the egg mix and our bodies are formed, the implantation begins. By the time we are born, 90% of the damage is done. And then we are born into this dumpster fire that is our current civilization, painfully backwards. We have our parents beating into us their trauma, education system, financial system, religion, education, you name it. And so it is not only the feminine, the masculine has also been dethroned, neutered.
No, I appreciate that. Absolutely. I fully understand that. I'm saying specifically, we have been given the narrative or the programming that Jesus was hung on a cross and died for our sins. And my question is, was that a true? I don't believe it was Jesus. I believe somebody was in his place, but more importantly, I believe it was the divine feminine who has always been the real sacrifice. And I'm not, it just comes up in me, and part of it has to do with my own experiences.
They are two sides of the same
coin. And also another question: when did the human become? When was the reptilian brain? When were we hybridized with the reptilian brain? Were we fully mammalian humanoids prior to the hybridization of humanity with the Anunnaki?
Okay,
if you will. If you understand what I'm trying to
say. Yes. So if I may propose this, by the time the Anunnaki arrived, the human physical structure was perfected. Their arrival was more towards raising the immunity of humanity towards energetic and multidimensional warfare. So the vessels that we are in are the result of billions of years of evolution of physical life and multi-billions of years of energetic life. So our energy structure is inherited from elemental beings. There's a massive scaffolding of information and non-physical DNA that allows the body to function the way it does. Maybe 6 to 10% is the physical stuff inside the nucleus of the cell. So, we have millions of years of dinosaurs. These magnificent creatures also contribute to the resilience of the human body in the form of the reptilian brain. That instant fight or flight or aggression that helped our ancestors survive. It does so also now. So there is a utility and a beauty towards everything that's in the body. At this point, the major chain, the major type of bondage upon humanity is of the mind and of the belief system. Physically and energetic, we are superior to any enemy that will oppose us. But if we believe we are small, if we believe we are helpless, then we're effed. And that's the state we are in now. So what we really need is clean information. We need clean information. Hey, wonderful boys and girls, look at what I can do. That is the message of Ascended Master Yeshua. Who cares how the vessel went? See, these are all crazy-making arguments that do not serve us. Listen to the message of the man. He walks on water. He heals the blind. Look at what I can do. You can do it better. That is the essence of the teachings of this wonderful being.
That's interesting you say that, because I often say that to people. You know, we externalize. I say, I mean, if you're going to give me biblical, you know, and tell me that you're a Christian and you believe in Jesus, well, he says that things I do, you can do an even greater. Well, I prefer the name Yeshua, because I believe that Yeshua and Jesus are two different beings.
Well, I understand.
Now, I could be wrong in that. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on that too. Not to turn this whole thing into that, but I don't believe they're the same being. I believe they're different. But that's just, maybe it's two different sides of them, possibly. I mean, I've come across information that suggests that Jesus is Odin, is Yahweh, is Anu. I mean, these are different names and different lifetimes that this. I'm just curious to know what your thoughts are. Jesus, I mean, I'm just curious. I could keep going.
And with apologies to Miles, you wanted to say something. With your permission, I'll just say something, and I will give you the floor. These are repetitions of the same. These are repetitions of the same energy, the consciousness of Christos, which is the enlightened human being connected to the beloved source, without forgetting, without boundary. It is my ideal to become that. I love that. That is what I strive to become. So it is not just one being. Many people achieve this state of consciousness, and it is available to every single one of us. And that is the truth.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Amir. I appreciate that. I know that, but I was just curious to hear because I don't know. Sometimes I get in debates and I'm not debating with anybody. It's just my own thoughts. Miles, please go ahead. You were going to say something?
There's a very interesting study of work done by Joseph Atwell about how the Roman Empire basically, and he is one of the Watchtower people, and de facto I basically sort of rounded up by saying that the Roman Empire had a Tony Blair relaunch. You had the Roman Empire with lots of gods and a whole pile of things going on, and then there was this trouble in the Middle East, because there's obviously never any trouble in the Middle East, and you had 2 or 3 Jesuses and Messiahs, and they're all walking about the place, and like any good disinformation relaunch and spin, they said, right, we're not going to have a lot of gods now. We're going to have one God, and we're going to have Jesus. And they completely rebuilt the Jesus myth. The actual Jesus that we have been given to was basically a bit of a rich kid who didn't really complete his job, walked about the place, had a good time, and didn't end up where he should have. And so that whole thing was basically relaunched as the Holy Roman Empire, and that is still in effect today, which is why everything goes back to the Vatican, and that's a satanic, non-Christian belief system as it is, which is why the Druids, who adopted the earliest form of Christianity, and the bit that was left was the so-called Celtic Church, which is why the Pope sent St. Patrick to massacre, kill, burn the firstborn and anybody else in Ireland until they submitted to Rome. So any idea that Rome is some happy, slappy places, but it's essentially the same as the Roman Empire. Then we go back to Romus and Remulus and Romulus and stuff like that. So that whole, again, that's going back to that part of the world. I mean, Italy ain't too far away from Jerusalem. So some root energy has been based on controlling all that. But Jesus basically was not the God-given savior that people have been led to believe. And then you've got King James, goes and rewrites the Bible, the King James, a demonologist, to get it all out, takes the artifacts, even a place at Stonehenge. One of the altars at Stonehenge is at St. James's Palace. And then this brings the whole British royal thing in. So the whole thing is essentially a remarketing sales gimmick to basically retain control from a bunch of dodgy people walking around in women's clothing. And I think that would possibly hurt a few people's belief systems. But basically, we're all running around being conned. And Dr. Amir, you're completely correct. Not that I'm qualified to say you're completely correct, but we are the people who could do this. We're all being conned. We have the power.
Well, there's a clip that I recorded that Simon Parkes is being interviewed on Project Avalon, and where he was saying that the being known as Jesus, this was a created story in order for the Vatican to basically push Christianity and to mind control people to believe in something outside of themselves in order to give their power.
Absolutely.
Can I reframe it? Maybe I wouldn't say that it was. I wouldn't say created so much as hijacked. Like, I personally believe that God's source, Mother, Father, did see things being messed up on earth at a time and did send a messenger as Yeshua, as an ascended master. And so there is that. And then that was hijacked because the other side, they don't create out of nothing. But they can hijack. And so I think that's how I would personally reframe.
Well, no, I appreciate that. No, I definitely resonate with what you just said. I think that's a fair, yeah.
I'm gonna be a real party pooper here. All religions are just an extension of children who can't grow up. Mommy and daddy dropped dead, so we got to have somebody else to tell us you were late from work, or to scold you, or to say you've done bad things. So we invent these gods. They're not gods. And these aliens and all the rest of that, we're all going to be saved by, or they're going to come in the big spaceships. It's all the same con. It's stopping us from growing up. Now, I'm going to say something else, Dr. Amir, and I hope you're able to handle the others, because they may just collapse. It's called being responsible and growing up.
Winner. Now this is
Aida, you're about to collapse.
How wonderfully this is merging together. I would like to kindly ask for a few minutes to describe what I understand of the human nature. First and foremost, we need to reclaim our place as a member of the animal kingdom. Healthy body, survival, shelter, awareness of what goes on around us. There are millions of years of wisdom in these bodies, our emotions, our instincts. These must be honored. They should not be suppressed. So an animal finds shelter, survives, and is in harmony with everything. Many humans have gone beneath that level. They cannot survive in the wild, and they don't know who they are or what they're doing. And then it is the art of healing. We are all healers, to heal ourselves. That is just basically being an animal. Coming into the stage of being a human, that comes with beauty. Beauty. Look at these terrible, awful buildings in these mega cities. They are horrendous. Our souls and our bodies are being deprived of the beauty of nature. Beauty of song, beauty of dance, that gentle touch by a lover. See, these are basic things that we need. Then, Miles, responsibility. We cannot give away power, blame everyone and everything from God to the goddamn aliens. No. If you find something unagreeable, you're behind the driver's seat. You have the wheel. Fix it. That is the height of humanity. But then comes another stage where we go to the level of the heart and we see all that there is as consciousness. An ocean, a mountain, a tree. Every single particle in reality is conscious. And we are being dumbed down and conditioned not to see this, not to hear the messages of the wind and the rain. That is our liberation and evolution beyond the state of humanity. The energy of truth, the truth of everything in the cosmos is already within me. Going up to shedding the boundaries of our ego, that I am not this meat bag. There is no me, there is no you. I am everyone, I am everything, I am everywhere. That is liberation beyond the level of this universe. Oh yes, boys and girls, there are many universes. Then comes the manifestation. I manifest the reality I feel within me. And here comes mastery over your emotions. If you are driven by lust, by anger, by vengeance, by depression, you're going to create a miserable world around you. It all happens within. And then finally, the true return to home, the end of this purpose of coming into existence and incarnation. I am the light, I am the void. I am the beloved source of all things. This is the way. Now imagine all these arguments going on in our media. Is taking us away from the right path, and this can happen in 3 months. The whole meditative process, 3 months, maybe less if you're a little bit psycho like me. I went through this, and boy, oh boy, oh boy, you are enlightened. And what is left behind is this constant energy of joy. Oh my God, I am so happy, I am exploding. That is the natural state of being. And so anything that takes you away from this internal bliss and joy, that is a distortion. If it is not loving, it is not true. If it brings you down into the energy of hate, depression, anger, anxiety, it is a distortion. And that is how healing occurs. So maybe momentarily we can share this with each other. Somebody under great distortion, you just shine that light, their light upon them, so they feel this bliss and happiness. Hey, buddy, this is who you are. And that may go away, but at least now they know where true north is.
I love that. Thank you, Dr. Amir. That was fantastic. That was well said and very needed. I oscillate sometimes, and then I have to bring myself back to center and just say, in this moment, here and now, I am safe, I am whole, and I'm loved. I'm lovable, right? I was watching George Cavallis. He did a very short clip on YouTube where he was saying his mantra is, I'll tell you I put it in here so I could do a little thing on it. But basically saying, oh man, where did I put it? I want to tell you. Hold on. Well, you guys go ahead and talk until I find it. Somebody.
Well, I wanted to go back to your question earlier about the reptilian DNA being put into the human experiment of like 24 starseed races. My understanding is part of that hardwiring for survival, which was to the benefit of us, but then it kind of does give us the negative reptilians a backdoor through our reptilian brain to try to access us and take us over. So that's the double-edged sort of it. But another positive aspect, apparently, is that a lot of the more, I guess you'd say benevolent, but airy-fairy races or species were having trouble with fertility. And apparently part of the reptilian DNA also includes very strong fecundity or fertility.
I'm gonna spoil the party. I don't believe that reptilian brain that we're meant to have has anything to do with reptilians at all. I think it's something else.
It's our legacy from dinosaurs.
There, I've spilled the party. I'm going to hide now.
We have the physiological structure of the brain from a very simple brain stem. Then we've got the reptilian brain. Then we've got the greater extension of the brain. And so these all perform vital tasks. Keeping a body alive is monumentally complex. It took us a good 200 years to build a robot that could stand upright and not fall over. and yet our heart is beating, so many things are going on. That takes 99% of the brain capacity, and it's on all day, every day, just keeping you alive. And what we are using right now in our wonderful conversation is a very, very thin, few millimeters thick layer on the surface of the brain called the neocortex. That's where the conscious mind is. Probably a little bit relating also to the prefrontal and frontal cortex, your personality and so on. But the conscious mind, speech, the process of cognition, mathematics, art, this is all related to that part of the brain, very new. And so the difference between a human and a let's say, a chimp who cannot talk, or some extra folds in the brain related to the auditory, visual, and let's say motor cortex, the Wernicke and the Broca area, very recent developments in terms of evolution. So we have had that structure. Now what we are talking about is energetic infiltration by very, very advanced beings. And that is the purpose of the whole thing. How can you get injected with this energy and yet master the volatility of a reptilian? Souls that are more of that orientation, very, very intelligent, very gifted in terms of energetic capability.
But doctor, sorry, yes. This is the reason why I don't believe that brain should be called reptilian, because they are highly evolved and intelligent and stuff. It's got to be given a different name. It has a function, but to call it reptilian is saying all reptilians are brain dead zombies or whatever, and that's wrong. And that's my basic point.
You're correct. That is true. This distinction absolutely has to be made. You're spot on. But it's not just the reptilians. We've got entanglement from archonic beings. These are very evolved, multi-universal beings that are pulling the strings. There are a whole race of insectoids, multiple races of greys, and these are all under sixth dimension. Higher dimensional ones are even more exotic. Some of them benevolent, some of them selfish. So look at us here now. We are free. We out-evolved all these limitations. And as more of us pop, God help whoever is opposing humanity. So
well,
it was...
Doctor, we are being opposed very seriously. I mean, before Brian came along, I mean, there's a thing here from the Labour's initiatives, which the Labour Party have complete control from DNA at birth through the whole thing, including smart watches and stuff. And the Fabian group, the Fabian Society, want to transhumanize us into, and that's a bloody BBC. That's a Fabian organization. The central switching system is called Fabian. So that's how that's, but I don't want to sidetrack. How are we going to overcome this? We now got Trump in, and everybody looks at America for this. But in this country, we got a shit show.
Well,
a real shit show.
My wonderful friend, it would be a mistake to downplay the brilliance and the capability of the opposition. That is just simplistic, and it does not lead to good places. But despite what has gone down in the past 250,000 years, here we are, man. Look at us. We are free. We are powerful. And I'm getting goosebumps as I'm feeling the energy of this reverberating through the consciousness of everybody who's going to hear these words. We are here. We are here. We out-evolved it. And so, of course, they're not going to go easy, but it's going to be a slow burn.
Good job, Brian. Yeah, it's really it's just, finding the balance and moving out of the duality. Like, I can go down the road of all the things that we've talked about that are not so pleasing to our hearts and minds, right? Or I can move into what you're so kindly and eloquently speaking of, Dr. Amir, and that is that, yes, we are here. And we're here for the most amazing time for humanity in this transition. And it's not going to be tomorrow. We are in it. We're just at our beginning stages. We have a long way to go, which you've mentioned, 2 or 3 centuries before we really see the cleanup take place. But we can, be a part of it, have a yes, please go ahead.
One caveat. None of us have to wait for 3 centuries. We can pop right now. So somebody else is a lazy student in class and they don't do their study and revision and homework and they do not pass. They need a few more incarnations. That does not slow you down. You can do the job correctly first time round. In fact, this is one of the fundamental truths that is kept from most of us, that even one incarnation is enough to liberate yourself completely. If you just know what you're doing and do not fear, because there's going to be projection of fear, do not fear pain, do not fear hardship, do not fear that notion of lack. It is all an illusion. With open arms, say, come at me. What's going to happen? Come at me. Let's see what you've got. And that distortion evaporates. It's all mind effery.
Well, Dr. Amir, I'm going to say something. I think there's a Chemfog title to this thing, so I prepared something from the Boom Report. But I've gone through the last 3 weeks or so extreme pain, and actually with attacks and all sorts of horrible things, energy stuff.
I'm step away for a minute. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Miles. Just let you all know. I'll be back.
Well, I just thought, since just on that level. I don't know if you are aware of the Boom Review. It's a new kid on the block called by Caroline Coram, and she's done a headline, extreme air quality alert, since we talked about Chemfog, and that's dated the 20th of January. So we're 21st of January. An alert for the whole of UK and Europe. PM 2.5 levels are forecast to be extreme for the rest of the week. This will be visible as a haze, mist, or fog. Any sign of milky white haze on the horizon, please be extremely cautious. So this is quite detailed. It's referring also to check in your area. Plume Labs, Ventusky, AccuWeather, or Windy. Some apps show longer periods of time. At least this is on official data sources.
Yeah.
Rely on your own vision or sense of smell and taste to be temporarily impaired. All sorts of stuff here, and that's the Boom Report by Caroline Coram, the Boom Review team, and producers frequently fortify. This is all down to foods that you shouldn't eat. Producers frequently fortified based products with calcium carbonate, bread, biscuits, cookies, cakes, pastries, coatings, powders. Check the labels. There's a lot available from the continent, which from our perspective
that
is
TBH, that TBH stuff that they put on it and the food. Yeah. And Miles, have you guys already talked about on the show how there are people here in the U.S. and maybe other countries now who've done chemical analysis of the fog and they discovered Serratia marcensis in it? And I could speak to that.
Well, Caroline does a lot of reports on this, and arsen gas a couple of weeks ago, that came out. There are a lot of people in the States were talking about that, but that was happening all over Europe, right, the whole way up to Norway. Excuse me, I've got to disadjust them.
Well, in terms of the Serratia marcescens, that's exactly what the U.S. Navy back in, I forget, it was like the 50s, did. Might have been Operation Sea Spray or Popeye. I'm getting all my operations mixed up. But that's where they literally, right off the harbor of San Francisco, or port of San Francisco rather, they just sprayed the city with this pink mold, which, you know, the reason why they said is, well, in that area of the West Coast, they didn't have this pink mold yet. So this is a really good way to test how well biological weapons would, have a disperse in a region that doesn't have this. Because
Brian, they did exactly the same here in Wiltshire. They sprayed trains with bacteria to see how it would progress in case the Russians did it. The Russians didn't do it. We did it.
Right. In case the Russians are going to do it, we're going to nuke people first on our own people, irradiate them, inject them. Right. Yeah. So no surprise that they did it there too. Yeah, it's that same. You realize that it goes above any individual military. These are all coordinated New World Order type stuff. And then you get into these think tanks, like you're mentioning, not just a Tavistock agency, but I forget who you were mentioning earlier.
Well, whatever you can do, we can do better here in England. We could do.
You're welcome to it. Go for it. Yeah. Well, aren't you guys the ones who flush black goo into down there the sewer systems?
I've just been speaking to Ida. I have to get her name right. Is it Ida or Ada?
Ida.
Jesus. I've actually been speaking to Harold Kautz-Vela last week. Excellent. And strangely, myself and Miriam, who's from Holland, we were walking in a place called Savanac Forest, where the U.S. military forces were hidden in Wiltshire during World War II. It's a fairly big forest, but not on the sort of sizes you would get in Canada places, full of oak trees and stuff like that. We ended up getting lost in the forest, and there's a whole ring of ancient oaks, 400 or 500 years old, and they're all dying. And Miriam's got an ability to talk and receive information from trees. And they're all dying because they're absorbing this horrendous dark energy, which for some reason or other is there. But the trees, he's dying. These are huge, magnificent oaks, which all their huge branches are just collapsed down and are dying. And what they're explaining was that their shoots, their young shoots, that the seedlings are going to grow up and bring us forward, but their parent trees are all dying. This is a whole ring of oaks, maybe 12 or so oaks, and we got lost there on last week, Tuesday or Thursday, and on the way back, I needed to get some screen wash. We finally got home, and it's the dark and it's the mist and it's quite foggy and stuff. So I needed some screen wash. So I stopped in just by coincidence at a petrol station. And guess who's there? A fan of me. A guy. He said, "Oh, hello, Miles, brilliant." And do you know what he asked about? What about Harold Kautz-Vela? And Ida was asking, is he alive or dead? And I was just saying, I was talking to him last week, and I was actually hoping to do a thing. So, yes, he's alive. He's doing very well. He sounds to be very, very busy, and he's doing a whole lot of really good things in Eastern Europe, Eastern Germany.
Fantastic. I'm glad to know that, Miles, because there was a gentleman, I watched a short clip, and he had said, well, unfortunately, this gentleman was taken out, and that was a different guy.
That was Dr. Andreas Novak, I believe, and that was because
and I was like, I don't think that's true. Did I miss something? And no.
This is a different researcher who is in Austria who was reporting on live streams before the scamdemic kicked in about graphene. No. He was doing a lot of very high level exposure into graphene oxide being introduced.
Well, I think it's more than a coincidence that I should and my friend get lost in this ancient forest, and the first person we meet when we get out of it is somebody who's asking about Harold Kautz-Vela, because I just happened to be on the phone with him about 2 days ago before that, because there's no way my phone is tapped and people would have somebody just waiting to ask me that question at the first gas station that I'm going to stop at.
They don't
that far.
Miles,
coincidence.
The other side doesn't want people asking questions like this. They don't want fans of yours asking about. I heard his name is now Dr. Harold Kautz. He dropped the Vela because apparently he got divorced, and in German culture, that was like his wife's last name, so now it's just Harold Kautz, whatever. But these synchronicities are more advantageous to our side. Along what you were saying, Miles, with these 400-year-old ancient oaks dying because of the energies and the pollution.
There's a lot of black magic conducted in there by the Rothschilds and all that. And there were certain places you could see where they would do that kind of thing. I don't know what the significance of it is, but we saw a deer foot cut off, deer foot of the first knuckle, and that was left lying on the ground. And I don't know what that means, but we've had 2 occasions where we've met this in our path.
That's probably to pervert the ground. That's like they did a ritual and they're marking it and they're perverting the area with that.
Yeah.
And I've heard that
so
there's
what
Siberian white pines that are dying off as well. And so people in like the essential oils community are really kind of like upset about that, because once these ancient Siberian pine groves go, they can't get this particular oil anymore of that purity and strength. So I guess there's a next generation. And then I was going to ask Miles, sorry, Ida, if these old generation 400-year-old trees are dying off, these new shoots, there's a new generation going to come forward. Is there anything we can do to help the old generation as they go out to kind of?
No, they're gone. They are huge oaks, and the trees, they're all dying on the inside. They're collapsed. And there are people in English heritage going through forests, the great forests of England, and they are deliberately pulling these wonderful trees down. They're deliberately injuring them. So this is not good.
Well, they are. Let's step out of the illusion of time that those trees, the vessels of which are perishing, are alive in the future, healthy and robust forests. Nature always finds a way. No matter what the opposition does in perverting, humiliating, distorting, and bastardizing that which is divine. Top of the list is nature, of course. But nature always finds a way. If one goes to war with nature, there is no other outcome but defeat.
Well, this is actually key to the sentient oil that arrived here. I don't like calling it black goo. I think that's just so crude, calling it black goo. But this sentient oil that was apparently deliberately landed here about 10,000 years ago, most of which landed in the southern hemisphere, and some of it landed in Ireland, of all places. That has got a different consciousness from a different planetary system or whatever, and that is adverse to the Earth's sentient oil, which is a fundamental creation of carbon-based life forms, which is why we have the CO2. Kill CO2, kill us.
So Miles, I've heard this before. So there's this like black goo that goes way back to the Orion words out of time and space. It's like way powerful and kind of connected to this darker archonic stuff. And then there's this more native to Earth, an Earth.
It's fundamental in crude oil,
right? And it's totally different from the black goo, which it just gets kind of.
This is fundamental to how organic life is built by the planet in the salty, deep oceans, as they all combine together and make long chain molecules. And there was a very good program made by an independent, I think, Norwegian crew. It was made for Discovery Networks, and the massive array of life under the ice, and how horrific it is. Nature is aggressive. Everything's eating something else, but that's how things evolve. You eat and absorb some other thing, which becomes part of you. Exactly.
Well, if it survives, it will add
let me just say
to the wisdom of life here.
Dr. Amir's got a client coming up, guys, so please continue, but he may have to leave us.
If you would kindly excuse me and forgive me, I would love to stay on longer, but I've got another arrangement. And my sincere apologies. As usual, it's been an extreme honor and pleasure being here with you, speaking with you wonderful people. And to those who hear us,
Amir, I appreciate you. Yeah. We appreciate you so much. I do want to mention, and I'm hoping, because I know that you had mentioned that you'll be traveling, On February 11th, Brad Olson has been invited to join us for a roundtable. I don't know if you'll be available February 11th, but it is part of this show that we have been doing monthly. I understand if you're not able to make it, we'll pick back up in the following month.
If I'm able to, I would be delighted to. Let's stay in communication with each other.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I just wanted to mention that before you.
Thank you. I love you all. Thank you so much. And have a wonderful day wherever you are. Thank you. Take care.
You do the same. Thank you.
Goodbye. Bye.
Okay, guys. Dr. Amir has left, and we're so grateful for his the value and the information he brings.
Sorry, guys, I thought it'd be boring and trying to stick to the Chemfog thing. It's sort of in the titles. Maybe a mention of it once would help.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That's
no.
what we
Okay. Well. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead. I had some of that. But we kind of. Yeah. Go ahead.
Did you guys get to talk about how many of our people in the community believe that this Chemfog is the other side's way of distracting us from the positive UFOs and ETs in our skies, while also trying to push their New World plans and get everyone sick as much as they can and push their bird flu crap?
I don't think it's focused as that. I think they're trying to throw everything they can at us. And there was arsine gas. Now, did you pick up on that?
Yeah, that's nasty. Now, we haven't found it here in the U.S. From the reports I've seen, but arsine gas, it sounds nasty. It's like a greenish, gas that kills your lungs, or what does it do?
Well, it also is meant to again, I have to give credit to the Broom report from Caroline Coram. She's only 2 years on the she's got a team of people, and she's getting hard data, and she's been it's called boom because there's all these explosions causing booms in underground tunnels, and then the military being on surface and something or other going on really bad underneath in Ireland, all over the place, Europe, and all the rest of it.
Yeah, we're seeing video clips.
A really good team doing stuff like that.
Yeah, also because we're seeing video clips of these underground fires springing up under cities that are weird. We're seeing the earthquake maps around the world where we've got these 1,000-mile long lines where there's these seismic explosions 10 kilometers deep, and that's the underground tunnels.
Yes, exactly. But the point is, she's getting that data from Google, this infrared data from Google, and they're publishing it, which is odd. So this is hard data, and she's really. So
let me just. I wanted to jump in just for a second, Miles. This first off, credit to Paul Akinen on Facebook. He made a post saying the analysis of Florida fall completed. I have been advised the results have been corroborated by a second lab. So 2, they found it was saturated with, and I don't know how to say this word, Serratia
That's Serratia marcescens. Serratia marcescens. Yes. That's that
bacteria.
Pink mold.
It's a bacteria, also considered a parasite. This act of releasing these pathogens onto society is considered biological warfare. Types of, however you say that, infection observed in humans can cause urinary tract infections, bloodstream infections, pneumonia, ocular infections, respiratory tract infections, meningitis, wound infections, and osteomyelitis. Anyways, there is a full report, and the testing has been done. And so we know that, and I got sick. I was when I was laying on my back, I couldn't get a deep breath. My breath was short. I couldn't breathe.
And you said the regional hospital.
I'm sorry?
You said the regional hospital in your Florida area there?
Absolutely. My neighbor is a nurse or a medical nurse attendant or something. Not a nurse, but
that is when you wear a mask.
She works at the hospital. She told me the influx of people that had come in from this Chemfog from getting sick with upper respiratory infections. Then my girlfriend Julia told me in Frederick, Maryland, which is right by Fort Detrick, by the way, within a mile, 2 miles of it, they had like 11, 12-hour wait for people to come into the hospital. I mean, it was so bad. And of course, you had mentioned
likewise in the Midlands of England, they were overwhelmingly. They just said, "Oh, with flu." So who the hell goes to hospital with flu?
Yes. Well,
these days, with people and their immune systems being compromised more and more, it seems. I feel bad for the NIH and what they did to themselves with the jab. So.
Yep. So.
Well, this is actually part of this thing I read out earlier about how doctors are being bypassed by the government because nobody trusts their doctors anymore. This is a whole policy thing from Labour's initiatives, and it's on I wish I had the header on this.
Yeah, well,
medconfidential.org.
Yeah.
October 2024.
Everybody listening, check it out. The link, Miles,
medconfidential.org/2024 Labour's initiatives by Medcon.
Okay. So there's a lot going on in the UK. Miles, earlier, for those that weren't here.
So Miles, what I take from that is there's a lot of backlash in the public against the medical establishment. No one trusts their GP anymore because of all the sicknesses. I mean,
exactly.
I have to ask you this: when you're over there in Europe, I'll just put Europe up, glom you all together. Why not? Y'all look alike right now.
Well, you all look alike to me. Go on.
But when you're watching a game of footy or soccer, and people are just going dropping on the field like dead on the spot.
Swimmers.
Are people
swimming?
And then they just suddenly. Are they waking up or not? Like, as a general public,
I used to do Sky Sports. I did a lot of the very high level Sky Sports shows, and the commentators were making reference to it. The scale of deaths are up by 1,000% plus for Scottish. For sports injuries. But I'm not in that anymore, and I don't pay to watch Sky Sports.
Right, good for you.
Yeah, I mean, I even when I got it for free, I was doing it. You're doing football all day. You don't want to go home and watch it. Yeah.
Right, but that really says something that a commentator will say that, and I'm sure the court of public opinion, people are waking up to this. And then the soccer teams or football teams themselves, when they see one of their own or even the other side's teams drop, they're just starting to cry. They know. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're onto it by now, at least.
Actually, my understanding is that they're now covering their mouth, being told to cover their mouth because people are lip reading what they're actually saying.
Yep. Yeah. Lip reading's a big thing.
That little chat with Obama and Trump. See, I don't think people really understand that when you're two politicians, you're basically in the business. I work for ITV and the other guy works for BBC. We're opposing sides, but when it comes to sort of business, we're both in the same business. So,
yeah, same bird, different wing.
Your contemporaries, peers.
Yeah.
In the same milieu, whether you like it or not.
What do you feel about Kimberly Gugan and Elena Danaan? I think
I can speak to that.
I think, and I'm saying this from a strictly analytical point of view, that they both got the same giggle. There's another prominent personality in astronomy here called Professor Brian Cox, who's pushed as the great god. Oh, women go, oh. It's the little, there's a little bit of a dry giggle. And I think the whole lot is a psyop.
I've got it.
Okay,
so basically,
I'm really curious to hear.
So from my understanding, they're from two different groupings. One is Elena Danaan. My personal take is she was giving really good information, and then somewhere along the line, kind of went off the rails somewhere.
That happened after the third interview I did with her when she was talking about her Cedars book. And I could see that she was genuinely, I'll say this publicly, I'll say that she genuinely was afraid for her life. And then suddenly, everything went happy, slappy,
I'm the worst in the world. She won't talk to me, have anything to do with it. Danny Henderson, who's a damn fine woman, told me directly, she wiggled her finger at me like this. We know who you are. Sorry. I don't know who I am.
You've been doing disclosure for 20 plus years. We know who you are. It's like
35, 40.
There you go. See,
years.
all right. There you go.
Well, Katie's got something that she
would I allow with his hairline?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Brian. I want to hear what you have to say. So
exactly what Miles is saying about Elena Denai. I think that speaks for itself. There's a change in messaging, and let that speak for itself. Kimberly Gauguin, I think she shares a lot of great information about like the alpha and omega systems, and from the other people in our community, what I'm getting is that she's real to a certain extent, but she may not have been given all the instruction manual and keys to the kingdom, if you will, for certain reasons. And so she's basically sharing with us what she's got at her level. And there might be some distortion there, but there's even a higher game above her. And so she's got issues of her own, but they're separate. Those are two different separate groups.
Yeah,
that's my current.
I will say this about Kimberly: if you're following a script that you've had to learn, nobody could behave in the way that she's doing. That stuff is primary memory, and she has got so much detail in there. Now I know she grabbed some stuff from the ACIO guys, and I think she corrected that by giving them, by crediting them and stuff like that. But nobody could have, if she's saying, as she said today or yesterday, the 20th,
send me that link.
She has invented.
I'd like to watch it.
Pardon?
Send me the link for Kim, what you're referring
to. It's on her GIA thing. It should be on YouTube.
United Network News. It'll be in one of her.
It's Global Information Report, GIA report.
Global Information Intelligence.
Now she's saying that she's completely built a completely different AI. The term, the golden age is hers. Trump's nicked the whole lot. She's saying Trump's dead. It has been for at least 2 years. She gave Trump first time around like 1.7 trillion, and he didn't do any with it. And the whole lot of them are a bunch of crooks. They got no money, and the whole whole lot of them could go.
And this is where I disagree with her, because she, like you're saying, Miles, she writes off the Trump administration as Duck Dynasty. And I get there's a lot of cynicism out there, but at the same time, I don't like writing off the popular will with 70 plus a million Americans, patriots.
Yeah, but they don't realize what we know.
Mm-hmm.
So the test is that she's talking about having liens on the UN building, so she's going to kick the existing tenants out and put her care organization in there. And the one thing I absolutely say she's got it spot on. We, you, me, I, us, we have the power, and nobody else has said that. No, I mean, in terms of being I'm the
disclosure movement, we're all about that.
Tons of people saying that, Miles, and that's been said for a long time, and that's pleasing to the ear. So
yes, it is. I agree with that. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, as they say, the proof will be in the pudding.
Yeah.
But
I think all of it. I think that there's, first off,
if we don't have Trump and all that saving us, who the hell's going to do it?
Well, it's not an idea of Trump saving us. It's the idea of you work with the best of two choices that you got. I mean, that's at the end of the day, you got to be pragmatic about it. From a disclosure perspective, everyone that I've ever spoken to in the time travel super soldier community who's seen a Hillary Clinton 2016 timeline, that's like World War III, nuclear war, transhumanism. It's bad. The Harris, Biden, and into what would have been a Harris administration would have just been an extension of the same. So now we've got Trump. A lot of people, they don't like the fact, obviously, that Elon threw a Sig Hail, it looked like, during the inauguration.
Oh, did you get that? Yeah, I had a bit of a joke on that. Yeah.
Well, what it looks like to me is he's doing a nod to the German secret space program.
What was that? Say that again, Brian. I didn't. You broke up. I didn't hear you. What did you say about Elon Musk?
So yesterday we had the inauguration ceremonies in Washington. Apparently the DC, if you go online, is now gone. It says Washington, which is wonderful news. You want to get rid of that DC crap. And during the inauguration ceremonies, Elon had some time up at one of the podiums to speak, and he literally just threw a sig hail, and people were like, what the heck?
Brian, I'm going to shout you down here. You got it all wrong. You just got it all wrong. It was in his heart. I got to do this again. I'll have to do this again. It was in his heart.
My heart goes out to you.
My heart to you.
Shut up.
You got to get this.
Is that what he did? Because I watched the inauguration, but after I listened to Trump,
no. But if you looked at him, Herr Brian, be quiet. He realized that. He realized he fucked up. And then he says, oh, my heart, my heart. Then he did it again. So he realized, oh, fuck, I've screwed up. You can see it in his face. So I just think you're just stirring trouble for a single child who's had a bad upbringing and he just likes to play with rockets. Yes, I mock you.
It's possible. Oh, I've got some.
Ida, did you get that?
No, I didn't. I'm sitting here trying to understand what the hell y'all are talking about.
So basically, in our
because you keep breaking up a little bit, so I can't follow right. Go ahead, Brian, please.
Am I breaking up?
For you, maybe, Ida, but for us on our side, it's fine. And hopefully, in internet world, it's good.
The worst thing you want to do is wave your hands around. I saw my picture change twice, so I think they put it on the C-120 cassette in.
We need your support. Please subscribe. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, and hit the notify bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hit the notify bell.
There's a lot
Miles. Brian.
There's a lot of distrust in our community around Elon, and I get that. And so, what I say to people is no matter who won for the United States presidency, the full disclosure movement needs to continue on as best we can, doing interviews, podcasts, conferences, trying to launch our own platform.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I totally agree, Brian.
Yeah.
I used the responsibility word before.
Right. And exactly.
Miles is going to join the new platform, aren't you, Miles? Brian's got some good stuff going on.
Oh yeah, we got stuff to share with you, Miles. Yeah, and we'll talk about that.
Later.
But part of that taking responsibility is doing the work in our case of the disclosure movement, whatever we can to advance a more organic, happy human society.
Yes.
And so what that means is that if we have an administration that's at least giving lip service more to disclosure, they're talking about releasing the JFK files and the 9/11 truth.
Daniel List is working so hard on that. I mean, he really needs a salute to the work he does on that.
Daniel List, is he with Architects and Engineers for Truth, 9/11 Truth, or
no? He wouldn't touch it. He's on his own.
Okay.
I met him at Austin at the airport in Austin when they had the Global BEM, that's the Breakthrough Energy Movement conference, which was full of CIA. I mean, I knew the guys, and they knew that I knew that they were CIA, but we didn't notice. We didn't notice.
Hopefully, they learned a thing or two. That's any of the speakers.
I know that you are CIA, and we certainly don't know that each.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, they've got a job to do, and I think there were a few CIA guys, at the conference in Tampa. One got me a beer, and then I was saying,
"You drank it?
Do I drink this beer?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Do I drink the beer?"
Make him take a sip first.
No, and then I said, "It's in a sealed tin. I'll be okay." But who knows what the CIA can do?
That's true.
Make a whole beer and seal it in a tin to make sure I get it.
He's got to wipe the lid and then pray over it.
Yeah, but maybe the toxin they put on the lid was dissolved by a rat peeing on it.
Oh, God.
That would have made it safe.
Let's change the subject for a minute. Everybody that's on the show, we got 15 in our audience. Welcome, everyone. Please subscribe, like, share, hit the notifications bell, and go to the Full Disclosure Now movement.org website and buy your ticket. The couples pricing is going to end at the end of the month, so you still have an opportunity to save yourself some money, get some tickets, either bring yourself and your wife.
Super Soldier couples pricing, it's going to go up slightly. We will still have couples tickets, and we're a big fan of that. And people buddying up. If you're not romantically involved, people.
Well, I hope to have a few basis people going over there. Colin Wolford and some of his friends. They'll drink the place dry of beer. That's for sure.
Okay, well, Rum Runners Beach
and
Bar,
Water
Resort. Look out!
Again. Yeah, we got so many amazing presenters, guys.
Are you looking forward to the water again, Miles? Miles is looking forward to the water again, St. Pete Beach.
Yeah. I got a really good picture of Miles standing up with the sun above him, and it was a beautiful picture of him. I gave it to you, Miles.
The sun follows me. When I walk along the beach, the sun follows me. And the moon does too. Everywhere I go there, the moon is up there, or whatever, or the sun. So if it's following me, it can't be following you, Brian, over there.
Okay, Brian. Miles, just a minute. So what do we have to look forward to? Brian, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on this, because President Trump mentioned the golden age, like one of his first things he said during it. Yeah. Well, and making a whole lot of promises for.
And according to Kimberly Gugan, he doesn't have a penny, and all of his operatives have screwed up in all the other countries of the world, and they've all been thrown out. We have to wait and see.
So my understanding is there's
I don't believe her.
This is the deal. Above
Kimberly, I don't believe anybody.
I don't believe her take on Trump. I do believe her on other stuff. My understanding is that Kim, there's the Galactic Federation types, and then higher the angelics and then God Source, who are obviously way above her. And the deal is that Trump, or whoever, I can put it in quotes if you want, but the Trump, the real Trump, not the body doubles, avatars, whatever, is working with Galactic Federation types, including positive-oriented Pleiadians.
Well,
and so when he's talking about the golden era, I believe it's because he's talking about this. He's got this stuff in line planned with like the Galactic Federation types. Kimberly Gugan aside.
Elena's on her, not Elaine. Oh, Jesus.
Kimberly
pointed out that the hat was like a UFO, and she was wearing that like some kind of protection device. I swear that was some kind of protection energy field. You don't wear a hat like that all the time.
You're talking about his wife, President Trump's
wife?
Yeah, during the inauguration. Yeah,
crucially,
I totally agree. That is so funny. You're seeing that, Miles. That's the first thing I thought.
No, I have seen people who are under threat run a conference, and they've got somebody close by looking around. Now that was at eye height, so nobody can see what their eyes are doing. But
also,
the other thing, which is a big message.
It also that dress, that outfit actually looks like
it was the shape of her blouse in a V was the same as Space Force. Identical.
Yeah. That is so
in terms of gesture politics, that was a big deal.
Yeah, because that Space Force symbol, and then also there's a Princess Diana outfit that very much mirrors what, and Melania has been known to mirror Princess Diana a lot. It's kind of like these like Q type references, and like you're saying, that Space Force shape, because like that Star Trek-y Space Force shape. That's with the Galactic Federation.
That is so fascinating or interesting that you brought that up, Miles, because that's the first thing
I've seen that tactic used before. They were.
And I also noticed body language. Yeah.
Trump. They're going to do
Harris's
Trump.
body language sucked. handle the fact that President, that she was actually there and witnessing him being inaugurated back in as the 47th president of the United States. I noticed that. And
well, the other terrible thing is Boris Johnson was there. What the hell was he bloody doing?
Well, that, and then the Clintons, Hillary Clinton did not look well. I just observed it. I only watched the part where he was inaugurated and his speech. I didn't watch the rest. I'll have to go.
Baron Trump briefly shook Biden's hand, and first Biden's sitting down, and Baron Trump walks up to him. And Biden's kind of like, "Oh, how you doing?" And shakes hand, and then Baron Trump leans into him and says something really short. Almost, I tried lip reading it from the side in like half a second. Looked like "You're going to Gitmo," and then like walked away. And then Biden's face like just fell, and he's like, and then Baron Trump kind of looked over his shoulder at Biden with kind of like a kind of look. So it's really interesting, and that's
I'm gonna have to watch it.
Well, at that point, I'm gonna fade out at 21 minutes past 21 at 21:21. Oh God!
Yeah, we should.
21:21. No matter what.
No, that's fine. We can end this. Listen, we have Brad Olson is joining us, guys. Everybody, tune in on February 11th, Tuesday at 2:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Brad Olson will be joining Miles, myself, and Brian. And we're not sure if Dr. Amir will make it to that one. I'm hoping he will.
He's a busy man.
Yeah. So, but we have a lot more information we want to share and go over. And I'm sure Brad will bring a lot of value to the conversation.
I may have some disagreement with Brad, but let's not make it.
Well, that's okay. It's okay that we have differences. We can discuss them and have, see from different perspectives. It's okay to have that, Miles. So,
well, I think we should just have a 4-hour show and start it with, I agree with everything you're saying, and everybody sits back and just looks at the ceiling. That's really good TV. Okay, good night.
Good night. Thank you, Miles. Thank you, Brian.
Night, yes,
everybody, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
All right, cheers, everybody.
You. All right. Let's go to